All right, so welcome to this evening's webinar. I'm really happy that you all could join this evening, and I appreciate your time, and I appreciate that you are all here. My name is Dr. Serena Maniotis, and I am the current director of the MyOp program. I joined the program in 2020. I'm also a teaching assistant faculty within the Psychological Sciences department at K-State as well. So in tonight's information session, I will give a presentation. I have several slides prepared just to kind of give you some general information about the program, and then I will also leave time at the end for any questions you have. I will do my very best to monitor the chat as I'm presenting. So at any point, if you have a question and you want to put it in there, definitely feel free to do that. Also feel free to unmute yourself at any point if you have any questions that way as well. So before we get started, I was just curious to learn a little bit more about you all. If you wouldn't mind, please share where you are from or where you currently live, and then what interests you about industrial organizational psychology. Okay, so I see Jeff's, I hope I'm saying your name right. You're looking for a new career after military service. All right, that's a pretty big change. Specifically coaching. Okay, all right. Definitely leadership coaching. I'm figuring in particular is a good fit for industrial organizational psychology. Okay. So Maya is originally from Mongolia, and you're currently in the US on OPT working. You're interested in IO because of the ability to better an environment and relationships in the workplace. Yeah, so one of the things that I really like about industrial organizational psychology is that it's kind of balanced between employee focus and organization focus. So you're kind of working to make work environments good places for employees that can support their well-being, but you're also making companies staffed with good people who can help the productivity of the organization as well. And you went to Truman Strait. Okay. And then Josie is from Maryville, Missouri, and you're also studying at Truman State. Oh, that's really great. Interested in IO because of the variety of careers. Absolutely. One of the interesting things about IO Psych is that there's not really a single job title or even a couple of job titles that cover the type of work that people with IO training can do. We will talk about a couple of example job titles from some of our alumni here in a couple of slides, though, just kind of as a sample of some of the possible job titles. I mentioned earlier that the session is being recorded, so just a brief reminder that will be available. And thank you all for your participation, by the way. I appreciate that. So what is the MyOp program at K-State? So it's our master's in industrial organizational psychology. We usually just refer to it as MyOp because the full title is very long. And we're all about taking what we know about psychology and applying it to the workplace to help individual employees as well as organizations, really to help them thrive. Our program is focused on people in practice. So what that means is we'll expose you to the research findings, we'll teach you how to look at data, how you would design research studies, but we'll also focus on how you can take that information and use it in your day-to-day lives as a professional. Our program was founded in the year 2000, so it has been around for a while. We are in our 23rd year. The technology has changed quite a bit since the early days of the MyOp program. So our two founding faculty members, Dr. Pat Knight and Dr. Clive Fulligar, I believe early in the program, we're actually putting videotapes out and mailing them to students because we didn't have the online tools that we have now. The slide says that we currently boast an 87% graduation rate. I think with the last few cohorts of data, that's actually closer to 90, but the vast majority of students who start the program do go on to graduate. Most students will be able to graduate the program in 2.5 years, and it is designed to be completed in 2.5 years. Over that time span, you will cover 38 credits of coursework, which works out to be about 5 to 6 credits per semester, including summer semesters. Like I mentioned, there are 38 credits that are required to complete the master's degree. The tuition rate is $768 per credit. So you can see the total tuition rate, and then you can also see on the slide how that gets broken out across semesters, starting with the first summer semester. The summer semesters are slightly higher because there are 6 credits taken over the summer as opposed to 5 credits in the fall and in the spring as well. Global Campus does have some scholarships available. So the link is there on the slide, and let me actually put that in the chat and make that a little bit easier for you to access. There we go. And then we also have an Office of Student Financial Assistance as well to help identify various resources. In the past couple of years, we've also had several MyOp students be nominated for outstanding student awards through Global Campus and win some scholarship money that way as well. Typical careers that people tend to have after completing the MyOp program or completing a similar master's degree in industrial organizational psychology include general managerial and leadership positions, positions specifically within organizational training and development departments. So that could be leading those departments or working as a facilitator within a training department as well, so delivering the training. Human resources is another common area. Specifically, I know some of our students have worked in the area of hiring and recruitment, but performance assessment would be another potential area as well. Some of our students have gone on to work in the consulting space, so specifically doing leadership consulting, or maybe even coaching in particular, organizational development more broadly, consulting with organizations on a variety of different issues that they might want to address, and then assessment and survey development and administration as well. Recruiting is on here again, but some other areas that our students and graduates would work in or go on to work in include safety, and then various analytics positions as well, such as people analytics, business analytics, HR analytics, and safety analytics, because analytics is everywhere these days, right? Okay, some industries that our students come from, really broad variety of industries. So we have had students that come from the agricultural space, manufacturing space. So we have a student who's graduating this fall who worked at John Deere when she started the program. We've had several students that work in healthcare and health insurance. We have a student who is graduating this fall as well, who has had several positions in tech and social media organizations. We have students who come from the retail space. So we have an alumni who has worked at Sephora and is now at Crocs, and then various independent consultancies as well. And just to kind of hit on that point and a little bit more specifically, the infographic here on the slide shows you some specific job titles that we pulled from our K-State career data from the last couple of years of graduates from our program. So you can see specific job titles like workforce specialist, senior organizational consultant, human resources manager, as well as human resources generalist, and then some job titles such as enablement and training manager. I've also provided some salary information. The purple graph is from our Career Center. So our Career Center sends out a survey to our alumni after they graduate and asks them about their current position and other work information. So that is where that data comes from. SIOP, so the Society of Industrial Organizational Psychology, also does a survey pretty regularly. I don't think it's every year, though. This is data from their most recent survey, looking at the average or the mean salary after graduation for people with master's degrees who have recently graduated. So that's sort of some information at a very high level about the types of careers that this training can prepare you for. We'll dive in now into some more details that are specific to our program and why we think that our program is unique from other programs that you might be looking at. So the first aspect that we'll talk about is the blended modality of our program. So we do offer the summer courses in person, and in the fall and the spring courses are taught online. We'll talk about the content in terms of what we teach in our courses, and then finally, we'll talk about the people in the program as well. So we refer to our modality as either blended or hybrid. What we mean when we say that is that we have both an in-person component and an online component. So the online classes in the fall and spring allow for a lot of flexibility, which tends to be what people are looking for in online courses. So you can take those courses, asynchronously. You can fit them around work. You can fit them around personal life. You can fit them around travel. We also offer our summer courses in person. Those occur over a shortened period of time. So what happens is that students will come in to the Manhattan campus the last 2 weeks in July and take 2 courses. So one course the first week, one course the second week. You get to meet your peer group that way. You also get to meet the group either in the cohort above you or the cohort below you. If it's your second time coming back, you get to meet your faculty, you get to meet the staff, and you get to make those in-person connections, which tends to help students with their support as they move into the online fall and spring classes. So if you have a question, students report that they feel a lot more comfortable reaching out to faculty and to staff with those questions, and also reaching out to each other. So we do encourage our students to form some sort of group, chat or text thread to be in contact with one another throughout the school year as well. So we're trying to have the best of both worlds, if you will, by having the in-person component and the online component. If you are looking to apply for the next cohort, that cohort begins in July of 2023. And that would be your first summer taking 2 courses in person. You will also meet the cohort above you who joined last summer when you're coming to campus for that in-person session. The fall and spring semester of both your first year and your second year are online. Those are always exclusively online. And then your second summer, you come back for your final 2 in-person courses, and you would get to meet the cohort beneath you, so the new students for that year. This is a picture of us all on campus this summer. So we usually do sort of a welcome banquet the night before classes start. We do a little bit of networking and getting to know each other and kind of go over how the program's going to work before we dive into classes the next day. Okay, we are in the process of actually changing a couple of things about the program to help address student needs and to help actually build a little bit more flexibility into the program. So new to the program for this year is the ability to actually try one of our classes in the fall or in the spring before you apply to the program. So it's too late to join the fall class because we're about 2/3 of the way through that one for the fall, but the spring class that we're offering is on personnel training. So if you were interested in that class starts in January. I believe it's the 16th or the 17th, starts on a Tuesday right after MLK Day. And so if you were interested in that, we would encourage you to reach out to us by late December so we could make arrangements for that. You can try a class as a non-degree seeking student and not have to go through the full application process if you're kind of on the fence about a couple of programs and want to try some things on for size. If you are looking to apply this semester and you want an early decision, we review our applications on a rolling basis. So if you were to submit it, this month, we usually review those within a week or 2 and get right back with you so that you have that decision right away and you can start, making your plans accordingly. And then the last thing is if you were to apply this fall and you're interested in starting early, You could also start early by taking that spring course. So there's kind of two ways to take the spring course if you wanted to do that. One would be as a non-degree seeking student, which does not require a completed application. The second way to get into that class would be to go ahead and apply and start early. So the current cohorts would be enrolled in that class, and you could meet them virtually, and then you would meet the rest of your cohort in person in July for that on schedule start for the rest of the cohort. Okay. I also think that we offer pretty good content in the program, which helps us set us apart from other programs. So our online classes, we try to design to be as interactive as possible. So traditionally, a lot of online courses can sometimes really emphasize reading and then discussing the reading through the use of discussion boards, which is a helpful tool for an asynchronous class. We like to kind of build out on that more though, and try to make that, a more interactive experience. So you usually get some sort of online lecture video that helps bring in some additional readings beyond maybe the book chapter that you're looking at for that week. Interactive quizzes, so you can do that quick knowledge check and make sure that you're understanding things correctly. The assignments for the classes are usually a very hands-on applied assignments. So things like an inbox activity where you'll actually have to respond to some mock emails to work through some employee problems, things like that to actually let you practice what you're learning in a way that's really realistic to what you might encounter in the workplace. We also try to do monthly synchronous meetings about this time in the evening during the fall and spring semester, just so that we can catch up on various things that we've talked about in class, ask homework questions, and just kind of use that as a time to connect as well. Like I mentioned earlier in the lecture videos, usually what we'll do is we'll try to actually bring in a lot of research articles into those lecture videos so that you understand exactly what the research is saying beyond, the things that have been discussed in your textbook. And then finally, we also incorporate practice analyses in the fall and the spring class so that you get a little bit more familiarity with data analysis and statistics. Our program follows a scientist practitioner model, so we definitely want to prepare students to be practitioners, but we also want you to be fully aware of the science and the research behind some of the decisions you might want to make as a practitioner. We train our students to fully understand how to engage in the research process, build your own research, and look at data, and then understand research that other people have produced as well. And then finally, our classes cover a wide variety of topics. So we have classes in selection, we have classes in performance appraisal, we have classes that cover things like motivation, leadership, job attitudes. We also have an ethics class, and then we have two course sequence in statistics and research methods as well. So we like to think that our students are able to be pretty well-rounded after they've gone through the required courses. And the last thing that I think is really important to talk about with our program is the people who support the program. So we have a group of 4 core faculty that support the program. They advise students, they teach classes. So Dr. Pat Knight, who is one of the founders of the program, so he's been with the program since 2000 when he helped create it. Dr. Lee, who is an expert in occupational health and safety. Myself and my sort of research background is more in motivation, performance, and employee well-being. And then Dr. Tianjun Sun, who is an expert on assessment, and she also has interests in individual differences such as personality. You'll see consistent faces across the program. So our cohorts tend to be relatively small. On average, they're about 11 people, which means that you can make some pretty deep connections with your peer group. You also have access to the faculty that support the program, and we're all very interested in helping students, being responsive, and you have, again, kind of that core group that you have access to. Our program also has an amazing graduate assistant who helps support our program. Her name is Kylie Warren, and she is currently a 4th-year doctoral student in our IO program. If you email the MIOP Psych email account, she is the one that manages that email account and will be answering your questions, and she is an amazing resource. We also get some great help from Global Campus. So Ashley Knoll is one person in particular who really helps the program. She makes it easy on our students. She will enroll you in classes so you don't have to figure out what you need to be taking. She's a really good person to ask for financial questions. She's just an all-around great, helpful, supportive person. As I mentioned, our cohort groups are relatively small, which means that you get to develop some deep connections with your peers. And then you also get to network with the cohorts one up and one below you as well. Our faculty always invite MyOp students to be involved in our research. That is optional, but if you would like to join a research lab, our faculty are always happy to help. And then you also get to meet some of our doctoral students that way as well. So overall, we definitely like to get to know students as individuals, and you get to know us as individuals as well. So these are some of our students from our in-summer session this past summer in 2022. This is the general schedule of the next cohort that will be starting in July. So you can see that the application deadline is April 1st. We make those decisions pretty quickly. We like to get back to people right away. So decisions would be out by early April, unless you're applying early, in which case we'll obviously be getting your decision before that. The in-person summer classes start July 17th. Fall classes would start in August, and those would be just online. And you can actually see the particular classes that are laid out here. Spring classes always start in January. So that's the first full year. And then you basically go through that again with a different sequence of courses. So second summer on campus, second fall, second spring. And then the last summer, you wrap up your practicum project. So your practicum project gives you an opportunity to actually address a real organizational problem. Most students are able to work with their current company to find a project that's suitable for the practicum. For students who are not able to do that, we do recommend that you work with maybe a volunteer or a nonprofit organization to find a problem to help them solve, but most students are able to work with their employer on a problem. We do have students that change jobs after they start the program. That's actually very common, that students will be able to sort of utilize their graduate education and leverage a new job actually pretty quickly, even before they're finished with the degree. And so we can be flexible and work with you if you do end up having to maybe change your project idea partway through the program. And that happens, that's relatively common. So for the cohort starting in 2023, the graduation, on-time graduation would be fall of 2025. We do occasionally see students who are able to graduate a little bit earlier if they're able to wrap up their practicum project earlier. And then sometimes students need a little bit of extra time too, because life happens, career changes happen, right? And so if students need to take a little bit longer, that is also an option. Requirements that we ask for admission decisions. We do recommend, obviously, completing a bachelor's degree, ideally with a 3.0 GPA and at least the last couple of years of your coursework. So the last about 60 credits. If you're close to that and you have some questions about whether your GPA meets the qualification, just reach out to us and we can work through that. Sometimes, we understand that maybe if you started out in a different major that wasn't a good fit and then switched, that can mess with GPA information a little bit. We do recommend the GRE if your GPA in the last 60 credit hours is less than 3.0. But other than that, we do not strictly require the GRE. And if you're not sure, definitely just reach out to us and we can help clarify as well. Many of our students have a bachelor's degree in psychology, but not all of our students. So if you have a degree in a related area, such as sociology or business, that usually works fine as well. What we would typically look for on your transcript would be the completion of some psychology courses and some statistics or research type courses, which provide a really good foundation for our coursework in the program. We do require some work experience, as we feel like that gives students the framework for the material that we teach in the program. Many of our students have managerial or human resources experience or related work like organizational development and training, but not all of our students have that particular experience, and we do look at other types of work experience or volunteer experience as well. For the specific documents we require, the first thing we look at is a statement of objectives, and that statement should tell us how the program aligns with your career goals so that we understand that you've kind of assessed how you think you fit with the program and you think that that would be, helpful, and that IO in particular is a good fit for you. One of the other things that we'll look at would be a resume or a CV, and that should include your work and volunteer experience, and then anything else you'd like to include, like if you've won any awards or things like that. Unofficial transcripts for the application, 3 professional or academic references. It can be a mix of both. It can be all academic. It can be all professional. It really just depends on what you've been doing for the last few years. So no preference in terms of the mix there. And then the last thing is, if you're currently employed, we do ask that you get a letter of support for your employer. This is just a very short statement that says, I understand that this person is applying to a master's degree, that this, requires a little bit of time commitment. It requires them to be in Manhattan at the end of July, and I support that. So like a paragraph to that effect. Okay, so I mentioned the application deadline a couple of slides ago. Our final deadline is April 1st. We do have an early deadline of March 1st for best consideration, but if you get your application submitted even before that, we review those on a rolling basis, and we'll get back to you as soon as we are able to, usually within a week or so. So if you're ready to apply, that button can be found on our website. So I will copy that here. And there is a how to apply button on the K-State MyOp website. Like I mentioned earlier, the recording is available as well. So if there is anything you want to go back and hear again, that should be emailed out to the email address that you used to register for this session. And other than that, I think I covered the material, so I will go ahead and unshare the screen and see if you all have any questions. If you want to put those in the chat, that's fine. If you want to unmute and ask, that works as well. International students can apply for the program. The international student deadline, I did not have this on the slide, unfortunately, is a little bit earlier. I believe it is in February, so that is something to watch for. Let me actually find you the international student application information as well. There is a different area for that, and I'll put that in the link. But yes, we absolutely take international applications. Ooh, a good question about housing in the summer. So a couple of different options there. One option is that K-State does have dormitories that it opens up for a variety of uses over the summer. That tends to be a very low cost option. Students have had mixed feelings about that option in the past, in terms of it being maybe sometimes a little bit loud. The other option, one of the other options, is usually like a short-term rental. Students tend to be pretty happy with that, although of course it kind of depends on the unit that you're getting. But students, especially like in their second year, will tend to go in on one together. And I know that helps offset the costs a little bit. And there's usually quite a few options near campus. The third option that tends to work pretty well is we will usually get a block of rooms at a local hotel and negotiate a discounted rate. Those rooms will usually be like a double room, so you're able to split them with somebody if you would like to do that. And then you're also able to go home for the weekend if you live close and not have to pay for it over the weekend as well. So that is a third option that tends to be pretty popular with students as well. Let's see, I was looking for the international link. These are all really good questions, by the way. Sorry, I'm being quiet because I'm trying to find information on the K-State website. Okay. So this is going to be a little bit more specific for international applications. And I also encourage you to reach out to me, and I will probably connect you with Ashley Knoll in Global Campus, who might be able to answer questions a little bit better than I can about international applications. And Maya, I see that your hand is raised. If you want to ask a question, you're more than welcome to unmute and ask that.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can, yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I just wanted to clarify, like I saw that this was a hybrid program, so I just assumed that like, you might have like in-person classes and then mixture of online classes. So how does that really work for like students who are on F1 visa? Like, do I have to go back home and then come back for the in-person classes, or how does it really work? If you
Yeah,
could
I'm
explain.
not really sure. And that's why I would probably connect you with somebody who can answer those questions a little bit better than I can, because I understand that sometimes visas can be a little bit tricky. I think if there was a situation where you needed to like be home during the summer session because of visa requirements, I think we're able to be flexible because we understand that that is something that would be out of your control.
Okay, thank you so much. All right.
Okay, all good questions. Okay. I will go ahead and put a last call out for questions. I think I got to everything that was directed at me in the chat. So yes, if you have any more questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, I will go ahead and end the recording. And like I said, that should be made available to you after the session stops.